Yo guys, Punkrat another video.
Good news, everyone!
Arathi Basin is finally here. In my opinion, the greatest battleground ever designed in World of Warcraft, and definitely the highlight of PvP, outside of World PvP at least, in WoW Classic. I've stated this on so many videos in the past that Arathi Basin is my favorite battleground in Classic and probably of all time. But you can't just go around issuing out blanket statements like that without backing them up with an argument. So that's pretty much the idea of this video. I'm going to be laying out my argument as to why I believe this. I'm going to try to go into as much detail as possible and really cover all of the aspects that I think make this battleground so great. So without further ado, here's why Arathi Basin is the greatest BG of all time. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that we have to cover is the map, and this is probably the most important thing when it comes to designing a PvP environment. Map and objectives are really the core to what can make or break the experience for the player. Now, while Arathi Basin is very simple in its design, it's either secretly or accidentally genius. It essentially splits into 3 lanes, or at least that's the way I like to look at it. And encompassed within those 3 lanes are 5 objectives, 3 of which are located in neutral middle ground zones, and 2 of which are biased to a specific faction, in the stable and the farm. Now, the whole point of the map is map supremacy. It's about dominating the majority of it. If we were to take the context of 2 equally powerful teams, then most likely the game would be decided by a 3-2 majority, either Horde having farm, blacksmith, and lumber mill, or really anything else, and that's really what's important. The map never plays out in a linear fashion. Your initial game plan might be to get these 3 nodes specifically, and to hold them, but the beauty of the way Arathi Basin plays is you're constantly reacting to what the other team is doing. Your team might end up pushing through at one point and actually having the opposing bias camp. You might have the 3 middle ones in either this linear line or this linear line. It can really play out in any single way. It really depends on where people are moving and how the enemy team is reacting. And this brings up a very important point, which I'm going to be going back to over and over consistently through this video, and that's replayability. If you go into a game, let's say like Overwatch or Heroes of the Storm, they kind of play out the exact same way every single time. The objective guides you rather than the players themselves creating a unique scenario every single game. This is why I think MOBAs are so huge right now. While you're playing the same map every single time, the game never really plays out in the same fashion. Every game feels unique. You're going to be doing dragon at different points. You're going to be doing a different clear. There'll be different opportunities for you to gank different lanes at different points. If you guys don't play MOBAs, I might be speaking in alien language, but essentially you're playing the map instead of the map playing you. I guess that's the best way that I can describe it. That's probably why the AV meta is so boring, because every single game you're doing the exact same thing. But when it comes to Arathi Basin, every single game feels completely different. You can be down 4-1 and then somehow miraculously through backcaps fight your way back into the game. You can 5-cap, you can be tied out the entire time and win by 10 points. Bases are being picked on the backside. You're defending, being called back, pushing forward, holding down. There's so many different ways that the game is playing out. Every single Arathi Basin that you queue will feel different, and this creates an element of replayability, which is probably the most important thing when it comes to a PvP environment. And while I made that point of backcapping, let's talk about it. This is probably the one major reason why I leveled a rogue in vanilla as my second character, and to be completely honest, most of the reason why I leveled that rogue is actually because I wanted to do AB with it, not only in vanilla, but also in TBC or whatever we end up getting next. Once again, if we tie this in to playing a MOBA like League of Legends, Dota, Heroes of New Earth, you name it, the one thing that I find makes the game so exciting, especially for a certain type of player, is the element of split pushing or split pressure. This is really where what I was saying earlier, you play the map and the map doesn't play you, comes into full effect. Backcapping in AB is an element of split pressure, where you can cause a ruckus on the opposing side of the map as one person. This alone can swing the tide of battle. If you as a rogue end up backcapping 2 bases back to back, or even just getting the opposing enemy bias zone in farm or stables, you as one person can potentially make 3-4, sometimes even 5 players end up mounting up and coming back to defend that base. When you do this, you create a numbers advantage for the rest of your team on the other side of the map, meaning as one person you applied pressure on their side, causing them to react to you, and then your team is stronger on the other side, being able to pick up maybe 3-4 bases off of that one play. And as a rogue, you can pretty much consistently do this the entire AB, just causing a ruckus all over the place wherever you go and backcapping your way to victory. Not only, in my opinion, is this an added element of replayability in the sense that you can play the game different ways, but it's extremely engaging and you kind of feel like you're on your own little stealth mission, and even without being part of the team fight, you're potentially providing the same value that 2 to 3 people would be. And trust me when I say you can single-handedly carry a game like this, especially within random pickup, non-pre-made groups, fairly consistently. Now the next element when it comes to the map that I want to talk about is the structure. We already mentioned the fact that it's 3 lanes, but if we really look at the topology or the geography of the map itself, it's even more complex than that. It's actually multi-leveled, kind of like a staircase. I'll create a little bit of a visual representation of what I mean here in the video, but as you can see, from lumber mill down to blacksmith down to the mine, it goes down level by level by level. This creates an important factor where the height of the map is actually relevant to strategy. Now, as old school legacy players, we've all seen the man in the blue dress, the old school World of Warcraft video of the mage who slow falls off the lumber mill, gliding above the blacksmith and unleashing an instant cast pyroblast onto his foes. This is a very real element of AB that's actually quite often used within the metagame. You might be thinking most people don't have slow fall. The answer is, you don't really need it. All you need is a noggin fogger elixir. So everybody who's doing AB seriously, or even just for fun, you should always take noggin fogger elixirs with you. And that's because when you chug them, you have a 1/3 chance of proccing a 2-minute slow fall. And trust me when I say this, and I've said it in previous videos, this slow fall has saved my life on countless occasions in AB. If you're lucky on first chug, you might get the slow fall immediately. Or sometimes if you have time to spare while kiting away, you can chug a few times until you force out the proc and then jump off the cliff and glide to pretty much wherever you want. You can go back to safety near farm if you're on horde side, same on stables if you're on alliance side. You can make an offensive play going to stables or farm, causing the people that you're maybe running away with start chasing you down and then once again creating map pressure. Or you can go down to the blacksmith and potentially get the flag or kill somebody there or help your teammate that's already trying to fight there. And even as a team, you guys can make shot calls to all chug noggin foggers until you get the slow fall and go ambush together. This is also a factor going down from blacksmith to mine. It's not as intuitive, but it's still a thing. And the next factor is obviously visibility. Being able to have a bird's eye view over what's going on, who's moving where, allows you to make better decisions on the fly and guide your team accordingly. And it especially gives you information on where you should be pressuring on the map. If you see that there's a big group of alliance going mine and they just left stables, you can say, hey, let's hit up stables while they're focused on that side of the map, drawing them to go back and then potentially go and get mine or go and get blacksmith. You can do all kinds of plays where you're making decisions based off what you see. And this is really, again, what I'm talking about. The map itself encourages tactical decision making and decision making on the fly, which makes every single game feel unique, again adding to replayability. Now the last thing that I want to talk about in respect to the map itself are the little rivers, the dams, the body of water that basically surrounds the blacksmith and leaks to both sides of the map. This may just seem like something visual, but it actually goes deeper than you might expect. This creates the constraints that I was representing earlier in those 3 lanes. This makes it so that it's not necessarily super intuitive to go from base to base. You can't just walk in a straight line. You have to walk through those 3 lanes. Those are your options. And that's a catalyst that creates all the extra elements that I was referring to earlier. It allows you to assess enemy player movement or plan out your own path based on those 3 paths. It's kind of like in Counter-Strike where you have the different paths leading to different bomb points. And another element layered on top of that are the secret, not so secret paths to skip over the water. On both ramp sides of the blacksmith, there's actually just floating debris, which if you take the perfect path, the perfect jump, you can jump onto the debris itself. They have logs and caskets and boxes, taking a bit of a parkour path onto land. And this rewards players who have really refined muscle memory on the map itself with a little bit better and faster movement to get to where they want to go. And another part that I think adds to replayability on top of everything else is just the pace of the game itself. Now, if we take all of the underlying things that I spoke about earlier, it creates a fast-paced PvP environment where people are constantly making shot calls, spinning flags, defending bases, forward capping bases, applying map pressure, sometimes fighting on the road, sometimes fighting at base. There's so much going on and the game goes at such a fast pace from a gameplay perspective, and that kind of leads to fast games as well, considering the fact that even a slow-paced 3-2 cap game usually won't take longer than 30 minutes. You'll never be in a turtle like you could with Warsong Gulch or AV. And the fact that you're cycling games and every game feels different consistently, it creates an element element again of replayability and enjoyment, which is probably the most important thing in PvP. So that's pretty much the video. Hopefully I made my case, hopefully I made my points clear and concise and you guys understand what I'm trying to say, because I tried to condense everything that I was thinking in a 10 to 15 minute video. I didn't want to over explain, but I also didn't necessarily want to under explain. So hopefully you guys understood everything that I was referring to, specifically about linear gameplay design and the contrast between games like HOTS and Overwatch, how you play the map instead of the map plays you. And overall, the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes there's genius in the simplicity. A big mistake that I find video game studios are making nowadays is trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. They're trying to innovate too much. The wheel is a solid invention already. You don't really need to reinvent it. You don't need to make square wheels that are clunky and inefficient just because you're a quirky artist. Traditions are traditions for a reason. Respecting them is important, and this applies very strongly to the traditions of game design. You can make new tires that have stronger grip, reinforced steel rims, better bearings, better bolts, stuff like that. It totally makes sense. But respecting what makes a game great to begin with is, I think, really important. And that's how you get people to play your game for generations. So if you guys enjoyed this video and if you agreed with a lot of the things that I had to say, then go ahead, leave a like, comment, subscribe, of course. You guys know the drill, soldiers. Hit the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a new video straight out of the render oven. And with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Peace.